Okay, students, our next poem is One Art. It was written by an American poet, Elizabeth Bishop. This poem is a villanelle, a traditional form that involves a fixed number of lines and stanzas and intricate pattern of repetition and rhyme. Now, this form, the poem explores loss as an inevitable part of life. The speaker considers what it means to experience loss over and over again and whether it is truly possible to master the experience of loss and grief. One art was included in Bishop's final collection of poetry, uh, Geography 3, which was published in 1976. So basically, this poem is about learning the art of losing things. She says that it is not difficult to become an expert at losing things. So many things seem bound to be lost sooner or later, that when they actually are lost, it's not a catastrophe at all. To get better at losing, try losing something every day, accept the frustration of losing your house keys or realizing you have wasted an hour of time. It's not difficult to become an expert at losing things. After this, practice losing more and more quickly. Forget places and names of people or things. Lose track of where you had intended to travel. None of these losses will cause a catastrophe at all. She says that I lost the watch that had belonged to my mother, and think about this, I lost the last or second to last of the three houses ever I have loved the most. It's not difficult to become an expert at losing things. And further, she tells that she lost two beautiful cities, and even bigger than that, some vast domains that I own, two rivers and continent. I missed them, but it wasn't a catastrophe at all. Then she talks to her beloved. Then she says, if I lose you, and in losing you, lose your uh, teasing voice and gesture of yours that I love, this won't have been a lie. It's clear that it's not too difficult to become an expert at losing things, though it may appear, write this down, catastrophic. The title of the poem lets the reader know that the poem's subject will be one art, implying that the art the poem will examine is one of many. Readers might expect that the art to be a traditional kind of fine art, such as painting or poetry. Yet, as the first line makes clear, that the poem will actually explore is the art of losing. The art of losing isn't hard to master. So many things seem filled with the intent to be lost that their loss is no disaster. While this opening line sounds straightforward, one direct, the art of losing isn't hard to master. The speaker says, in fact, this line, which will become the poem's refrain, contains layers of meanings. First, it is worth noting that the speaker describes the experience of losing, of going through loss, and living with loss as an art. This suggests that one can learn to deal with loss in the same way one might learn another craft or art, such as painting, poetry, or music. While the poem makes it clear that its subject is the art of losing, the word art also implicitly connects the poem's subject to other kinds of art, including the art of poetry and the poem itself. From the beginning, that then the poem subtly connects the art with it will examine with its own artfulness, implying that the one way the speaker has mastered loss or attempted to master loss is through writing the poem itself. The word master is also important. Traditionally, the word has been used in connection with the fine arts. The term old masters, for example, refer to classical painters and artists such as Michelangelo and Leonardo da Vinci, who are considered masters or experts painters. This word then sustains the idea that the art of losing that the poem will explore is connected to other kinds of art, and that the work involved in mastering loss, just like the work involved in mastering any fine art, involves practice, discipline, and skill. This stanza provides the clear opening statement of the poem. It boldly declares that loss isn't a big deal and that we should get used to it. It is not a big disaster to lose anything, and we should be ready all the time to lose things again and again on daily basis. Lose something every day except the fluster of lost door keys, the hour badly spent. The art of losing isn't hard to master. The poem continues in a rather pedantic tone, instructing readers to practice losing things by losing different insignificant items every day. The speaker tells us to accept the fluster. Fluster mean जो परेशानी होती है, जो एंजाइटी होती है, that such losses bring presumably, so we eventually stop getting flustered by them at all, क्योंकि वो इतनी ज़्यादा मिकदार में होने लग पड़ती हैं, और जब हम उस चीज़ को एक्सेप्ट कर लेते हैं तो उसका डिज़ास्टर हमारे लिए मीनिंग नहीं रखता. We don't know about you, but most of us are very very familiar with this fluster, the small scale apocalypse of leaving your keys somewhere, then having to turn the whole house upside down. जैसे आपको कोई चीज़ नहीं मिल रही होती और पूरा घर छान मारते हैं, और उससे जो थोड़ी बहुत परेशानी होती है वो आपके लिए मैटर नहीं करती, क्योंकि अगर आप उस लॉस को, उस चीज़ को एक्सेप्ट कर लेते हैं तो फिर उससे जो एंजाइटी होगी वो आपके लिए प्रॉब्लम नहीं करेगी. फिर इसी तरह आगे वो शी इज़ टॉकिंग अबाउट एन आवर बैडली स्पेंड, इट मीन्स शी इज़ टॉकिंग अबाउट मोर एब्स्ट्रैक्ट थिंग्स. ठीक है, पहले तो वो फिज़िकल चीज़ों की बात करिए, नाउ शी इज़ टॉकिंग अबाउट एब्स्ट्रैक्ट थिंग्स. अगर हम उनको भी इसी तरह उसको भी वो फिज़िकल लॉस की सेंस में ले रही है. एंड शी सेज अगर हम उसको भी मास्टर कर लें तो हमारे लिए प्रॉब्लम नहीं रहेगी. देन प्रैक्टिस लूजिंग farther, losing faster, places and names and where it was you meant to travel. None of these will bring disaster. The losses mentioned grow somewhere more significant, though they are still vague. The speaker brings up the kinds of things we all attempt to remember but eventually forget. The things you maybe mean to write down but never do, like people's names or places you have been or places you would like to go. These losses still are not too important for the poetess. She says that they are very trivial in their very own existence, but still they are losses. उसके कहने का मतलब ये है कि अगर हम ग्रेजुअली यूज़लेस और इनसिग्निफिकेंट चीज़ों से जाते जाते हम मोर सिग्निफिकेंट और मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टेंट चीज़ों की लॉसेस की तरफ आएँ, तो शायद हम इस आर्ट को मास्टर कर सकते हैं. कि किसी भी आर्ट को सीखने के लिए आप ज़ीरो से स्टार्ट लेते हैं. ठीक है, तो ये ज़ीरो से स्टार्ट लेते लेते हम ज़िंदगी के बहुत अहम चीज़ों को अगर लूज़ कर देंगे तो हमें फिर फ़र्क नहीं पड़ेगा. I lost my mother's watch, and look, my last or next to loss of 3 beloved houses went. The art of losing isn't hard to master. Again, the emphasis is on time, specifically family time, with the mother's watch being lost, surely symbolic of a profound personal experience for the poet. And note that the speaker is in the here and now when the words and look appear in the first line, telling the reader that that 3 beloved houses went where we are not sure. We only know that they were definitely lost, never having been called a home. And she is again pointing out the thing that losing all these things was not a matter of disaster for her, because she had accepted the reality of losing things gradually and more speedily, and their loss is not a big deal at all for her. I lost 2 cities, lovely ones, and vaster some realms I owned, 2 rivers and a continent. I missed them, but it wasn't a disaster. The build up continues. कि उसने जो छोटी छोटी ट्रिवियल चीज़ों से बात लेना शुरू की है, अब वो पाइल अप हो रही है ज़्यादा बड़ी चीज़ों में. Emotional tension is still not apparent as the reader is now confronted with the speaker's loss of not only the cities where they used to live but the whole continent. This seems drastic. To go from a set of house keys to a whopping continent is absurd. How much more can the speaker endure? कि उसकी कितनी बर्दाश्त है, क्या कुछ वो lose कर सकती है. Disaster still hasn't happened but she does miss what she had and possibly took for granted. कि जो चीज़ें हमारे पास होती हैं हमें उन चीज़ों की कदर तभी आती है जब वो हमसे खो जाती हैं. तो यहाँ पे वो यही बात कहना चाह रही है that he has lost so many things and they were from trivial things to bigger things, but still she is not feeling the disaster. That disaster hasn't happened still. Now she comes to the final paragraph, final stanza of the poem. Even losing you, the joking voice, a gesture I love, I shall not have lied. It's evident the art of losing is not too hard to master, though it may look like, write it, a disaster. The opening dash in the final stanza gives it the feel of almost an afterthought, and the use of adverbs even and to in connection with a loved one reveals something quite painfully rational. The personal gives away to the impersonal, the form dictating despite the last attempt वो जो उसने लिखा है write it to avoid admission. In conclusion, there is always the possibility of disaster when we lose something, but life teaches us that more often than not we come out of certain precarious situations with a smile, a cool, and detachment. The benefit of hindsight. The poet infers we might become masters of the art of losing and in so doing find ourselves. Here, the poetess presents an autobiographical of glimpse of the life about the things and people she has lost in her life. The poetess catalogues the things she has lost and explains that the art of losing is not really hard to master. Instead, it is a creative venture that enables her to get over those grave things. Therefore, she has mastered this art to spend a healthy life. Also, she has learned these tactics through bitter experiences. However, what enchants the readers is the way she presents the idea of losing. Losing, acceptance, and sadness are the major themes found in the poem. Incorporated with powerful language and other literary elements, the poet's message includes losing something or someone doesn't bring disaster. She details her own losses to support the idea that the art of losing teaches us how to come out of precarious situations and be happy. नेक्स्ट लेक्चर में मैं इसका आपको इसकी लिटरेरी डिवाइसेस का एनालिसिस करके दिखाऊंगी. ठीक है, वो लेक्चर आपके लिए बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट है. उसके लिए फिर आप चैनल को सब्सक्राइब करें ताकि ऑटोमेटिकली आपको नेक्स्ट लेक्चर की जो है अपडेट मिल जाए और आप तक वो पहुंच जाए.